The Pharisees thought that they would try again, and they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. And this is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." Again, he said, on these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. I know that what I got to do is I got to love God. And I know that what I got to do is I got to love my neighbor. And in all of those things, if I do those two things, then all of the commandments, all the laws, all the things that the prophets commanded, and all that he commanded in the laws in Leviticus, all of those things are encompassed in that. Woo, man. And we would say, you know what? Doing pretty good. But the question I want to ask you tonight is, and I don't want to see hands or anything like that, but how many of us would be honest? Think about that. Be honest with yourself. Are we fulfilling the commandment? Do we really love God? And do we really love our neighbor? And that's a hard one. That's a hard one for me. I've been in ministry now for a number of years. Been a pastor preaching these things all the time. And it's just like, I'm trying to do everything that I can to make myself be a good example. And it's just like, there are times in my life where I just look and I'm just like, man, God, I did not love you in that situation, did I? Or, God, I did not love my neighbor in that situation there, did I? It's just like I constantly fall short on those things. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, when I'm talking about loving God, and some of us will just be like, well, it says in John, we love God by, keeping His commandments. That's what I'm doing, I'm keeping my commandments. Well, are you keeping the commandments because you love God? Or are you keeping the commandments because you're trying to achieve something else? And I want us to think about this, folks. We as Christians, it's just like, yeah, man, I have got to read my Bible every single day. I have got to spend at least an hour in prayer every single day, and I got to lift up His name. Glory be to God. I got to make sure I go to church every single week, and I got to do all of these things. These are the things that I have to do because I love God. Now, do we do those things because we love God? Or do we do those things because deep down inside, we want to do everything that we can to be a good Christian, do everything that we can to be a good person, so that when our time of need comes, that I can stand before God and I have a right to be there and say, God, I need help and you best help me. I have been a good son. I have been a good daughter. I have done everything that you asked me to do. I've read my Bible, I prayed, I went to church every single day. I've done all of those things. I stopped listening to bad music. I stopped watching bad movies. I stopped watching American Idol. I need you to answer my prayer. Is that love? Or folks, are we trying to manipulate God? And this one is even tougher. I'm going to use guys as this illustration, okay, because, it affects me. I'm married, and I know this isn't the case for me because I'm a pastor, but, guys, let's pretend you guys are rich, okay? And this girl is dating you, and you can never tell, does she love me for me, or is she with me because I have money? God doesn't want that either. Are we using God and are we using Jesus Christ to get into heaven? Is that what we're doing? Do we want to obey His commands? Do we want to do the things that He commanded us to do? We want to do all of those things so that when the time comes, I can get into heaven and just be like, yo man, thanks so much for dying on the cross. Thank you, let me in, I did my thing. Now I'm in heaven. And I got into heaven. Now, was that loving God? Or did did we just use God? That's a hard thing. It's hard to even think about, man. It's just like, man, Shane, you're messing with me here. Because it's just like, yeah, you know, I've always known these are the things that we got to do to be good Christians. And you're messing it up for me. But my question is, what is the goal? Is the goal to be a good Christian so we can manipulate God? Or is the goal to be a Christian so we can use God so that we can get the most important person in our lives, ourselves, taken care of forever and ever? My question is tonight, do we really love God? My second question is, do we really love our neighbor? Even today I saw one of the most messed up things. And Janine was driving, and we were right by the leaky merge. And this ambulance is coming out. Ambulance coming through. Somebody's in that ambulance probably dying of a heart attack. And what's happening? The cars aren't moving. They're all just driving, trying to get in front of it, using this as an opportunity for them to get ahead. And then this ambulance got to slow down. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody could really be hurt. But why? We block this, we make this whole thing so difficult for us to get what? To gain 30 seconds of our time? And that 30 seconds was more important than somebody's life in an ambulance? I mean, are we really loving our neighbor? I mean, it's not even just our actions. It's not just even on the highway. It's even how we think. I mean, even sometimes when we're just there and we're just thinking, and the things that we think about people even sometimes, you know? Just like you see somebody walk in, it's just like, oh, please. Or some of these girls, you know, you see a girl and just like, look at her. And a guy is right next to you going, look at her. You know, some of the bad things that we do, the negative thoughts that we have about our neighbor. But Jesus threw something in there that was even worse. And you know what that was? He said, loving your neighbor as yourself. That puts everything into a brand new perspective. Now all of a sudden everything changes. Now it's not just being courteous to somebody, but it's loving somebody and doing the things that you would do for a person that you would do for yourself. That made things just way more difficult. It would be like not letting other people suffer the way we would keep ourselves from suffering. When we see that somebody's really going to have a hard time, that we don't just be like, man, that's rough. I'll pray for you. Because if we were in that situation, we wouldn't want that happening to us. And if we could do something about it, we would definitely fix it. Do we love our neighbor as ourselves? Folks, that's what's difficult about this whole thing with the Great Commandment. That really brings everything to the front, brings it all into perspective. Yes, my friend was right when he says it was simple. He consolidated everything. He made it easy. And I said, yes, he made it easy. He made it easy for me to see that I am a sinner and I need a Savior. Folks, that's what the whole thing with this gospel is about. With Jesus' struggle with the Pharisees, it all hinged on one thing. Folks, are we going to be honest with ourselves? And if we're honest with ourselves, then we're going to see for sure that we're not following the commands. That's what the law, folks, was here to do. Paul says, I would not know what sin was if the law wasn't there to tell me what it was. If I wouldn't know what it means to not covet or not be jealous of something if the law didn't tell me what jealousy was. The law showed me that I was falling short. The commandment that he gave to love God and to love your neighbor, it helped me to realize that I am falling short. It helped me to realize that I am in some serious trouble here. I think that my problems is my boss at work, or my kids not listening to me, or my teenagers not listening to me, or my teenagers, I always got to watch MTV, and I always got to listen to the okey-doke music, all that type of stuff. We think that that's the problem. But the truth of the matter is Jesus is trying to ram it home here and trying to say, folks, the problem is sin.